Thanks for being here. Thanks for the work. All of us, and I mean that, all of us go through the process of TSA. All of us are grateful for the folks that are standing there in blue, doing a great job. And I would tell you, in the airports that I fly out of Oklahoma City and Tulsa the most, out of those two airports, and I fly out of Oklahoma City more often than I do out of Tulsa, it's a remarkable group of folks that are there. And what they do, the attitude they do it with, the speed and the efficiency they do it with, are really a tremendous group of folks. And if you get the opportunity to be able to come to Oklahoma City and to Tulsa and to be able to meet those folks, I'd encourage you to be able to do it and to be able to see how they're doing it, because they're really doing it extremely well. And I know they're in a process in our airport, taking time to be able to merge several sites and doing what a lot of other airports are doing right now. They're really doing a remarkable job. Let me ask you a couple quick questions on things. TSA has requested an increase of 28 positions on countering unmanned aircraft systems. Tell me a little bit about what you plan to do with that. This is obviously authorization that Congress gave you a couple of sessions ago on it. What's happening? What are those positions be used for?
Yes, sir. What's happened since the congressional authorization is that we've worked through the interagency process, the National Security Council staff, and have developed a concept of operations for counter-UAS operations in the United States, focused primarily on what we call the core 30 airports, the 30 largest airports, where if there was a disruption in any of those airports, it would have a significant cascading effect on the rest of the system in the United States. So we have a concept of operations. Part of that concept of operations was the designation of a lead federal agency. And TSA has been designated as that lead federal agency. So as a lead federal agency, we have responsibility for making sure that ConOps is implemented in a timely fashion. These resources provide us with additional staff to do airport vulnerability assessments, for example, because we do a separate vulnerability assessment for UAS vulnerabilities at those core 30 airports. We eventually, Senator Lankford, want to open that aperture a bit too, to get to some still large airports that wouldn't be part of the core 30. The other part of that request is to provide us some additional attorneys to be able to support our counter-UAS operations, some additional watch standards to do it. And then within the Department of Homeland Security's science and technology budget, there's a good amount of money to do some additional research on the ability to detect, monitor, and identify UASs in airspace. We have good, strong international partnerships, and some other DHS agencies do counter-UAS operations like the Secret Service and like the Coast Guard. We're trying to take those best examples to be able to provide to airports what we call a qualified products list, which is equipment that we have tested, we have certified it meets a certain performance threshold, and we have determined that it is affordable for maintenance and reliability.
But this is for countering the threat. This is detection and countering threat.
Initially, detection, monitoring, identification, just to know the threat's there, and then follow on the countering.
Okay. Please tell me you're spending more on science than you are on attorneys in this process.
We definitely are.
Okay, thank you. You listed the three of them there, and I just want to be able to figure out where the priorities were on it. And no negation to attorneys. We need at least one in the country. But that is always my concern, is that we spend a lot on consultants and about chasing things rather than actually application of it. So I look forward to seeing that. 28 enough to be able to do that? You've got a core 30 facilities there that you're doing the evaluation on. Is 28 staff enough for that?
Yes, sir. 28 is enough because we're using a lot of federal air marshal support to do those vulnerability assessments, and we partner strongly with the FBI on this as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll want to be able to get an update on that and how that's going. In your detection, obviously, you're looking for immediate threats to an aircraft, to staff, to the pilots, all those things coming into the aircraft. One of the threats that's out there is an airborne release of fentanyl or other chemicals as well. How's it going on doing your detection of trying to move from explosives and a firearm to different airborne toxins like a fentanyl or something else that may be getting into an aircraft?
So we're making some progress on it, but candidly, most of our focus is on explosives because the explosive set is very dynamic. It changes over time. We look at the intelligence, we look at what our adversaries are developing and try to stay ahead of them in that regard. And that spills all the way over to, for example, canine training, because we train canines for a certain odor set. That's got to be constantly refreshed. But that's not to minimize the threat from fentanyl and any other airborne agent.
Okay, I would only say I know that Customs and Border Patrol, other folks are working on technology to do rapid scanning for things like fentanyl, opioids, other things that are coming in. Once they're transported into the system, as you've mentioned before, if someone gets through into the system in any airport, they can get through to every airport on it. If drugs are contraband and some other things are getting in, and some of those could be airborne released and become lethal or become an issue as well. All of those technologies, I would encourage you to work with other areas of DHS and the technology they're using for screening to see if there's a way to be able to actually build that in the algorithm of what we're using for screening as well. There are several different companies that are out there that do the rapid testing like you do for explosives on your hands, for random testing, that do that exact same type of testing to be able to actually test for fentanyl or other things as well. That might also be helpful to us to be able to help do some other detection, and that might be something that can be built into the screening that you already do. So it's not a second type of test, but if you're already doing that swab, it would show up as well in that algorithm. So if there are ways that we can help or things that you need engagement on, pleased to be able to continue to see your work on that. Thank you.